Welcome to this week's episode of Pipeline Profits, where we dig deep into best practices and everything sales and marketing. I'm Ryan Wykes with over 20 years of sales experience and 12 years in the real estate industry, growing brokerages and teams and being obsessed with everything sales. And I am luckily,
That's all good, man. Go one more time.
okay. You gonna start it again, or I just go?
No, just keep going. I'll just edit the beginning out.
Welcome to this week's episode of Pipeline Profits, where we dig into everything sales and marketing related and best practices. I'm Ryan Wykes, and this is my co-host, Emma Pace. We have over 30 years of sales and marketing experience under our belt, built real estate teams, brokerages, and other companies. And we are excited this week to talk to you about how to kill presentations.
We are fortunate enough to have somebody in our industry, and Ryan and I have worked in the real estate industry for many, many, many years. But our guest today is arguably one of the kings of presentations, is extremely well respected in our geographical region, which is Toronto and the GTA. He is unfortunately a Leafs fan, so he's had his heart broken many, many, many times, which is why he's learned to put on a great face no matter what mood he's in. He started in the industry when he was only 22. He is absolutely afraid of heights. He is a massive watch fan, which was one of the things that led us to becoming great friends. He is a wonderful friend. He has been an amazing business partner. And most importantly, he is a wonderful dad and father. We are extremely happy to have on the show this week none other than Mr. Tom Story.
Whoa.
Tom.
That was awesome. Thanks, guys.
You're very welcome. You can cut that out, but that was not just an intro. That was absolutely the truth, man. We're super, super excited to have you on this week. So thank you for being here with us.
I'm pumped to be here. Anything you guys do, I'm all in. So I'm excited, and I like the fact that you didn't really tell me anything that was going to happen today, so that we can just have a real conversation. And those are the best type of podcasts, at least in my opinion. So I'm pumped.
Yeah, we didn't tell you, but it's just all objection handling today. No, just kidding. That's awesome. But no, man, I think, everybody or anybody that knows you as kind of like the YouTube guy who has really crushed it with, your classic saying, which is visibility beats ability. But I think we really want to just be able to showcase like your story and you as a salesperson before you became Tom Story, the internet celebrity. So tell us a little bit about like, why did you get into sales when you were 22?
Yeah. So my mom sold for a company called Pampered Chef for many years, and they would like come to your house and do kitchen parties. And then you'd buy it wasn't Tupperware, but it was like the stones and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I watched her build that business. You guys getting a little feedback?
Yeah. I'm getting
really. I haven't heard anything yet.
I don't know if it's me. Oh, weird.
Brian, you hearing it?
Yeah,
I got nothing.
I'm hearing it.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it me? Hold on. I'm going to mute myself for a sec.
Yeah, no worries. Hello?
Yeah,
it must be because I don't hear it anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you have headphones, Emma?
Yeah, I'm just going to change my mic here. Let me push this back. Is that better?
Hello.
Yeah, it seems fine.
Better?
Now.
Yeah, better.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll just talk a little bit louder. Sorry, guys.
Cool. No worries. You want to just ask that question? I'll just go from there.
Yeah, totally. All right, so we're obviously excited to chat with you, and we're going to get to where you're at now. But tell us a little bit about what kind of caught your interest to be a salesperson when you were 22.
Yeah. So when I was 18, I wanted to get my real estate license and didn't. And I'm happy I didn't then, because I would have failed and I wouldn't have done it again, truthfully. My mom was always in sales growing up. I watched her grow her business. She worked for a company called Pampered Chef. Owned by Warren Buffett, one of his companies he owns.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And I watched her kind of build that up, and she was great at meeting with people and face-to-face and sales. But it was like she'd go to their house. It was like big pressure. Like we're talking about presentations today. That's like terrifying, right? You go into someone's house, you show them how to make food. There's all these people there, and then you try to sell them on what you made the food with. Like it's this crazy, because you couldn't go online and buy it. You could only buy the product through that, right?
Right. So is it like network marketing?
Basically, I mean, it's MLM.
Yeah. Like she's got to line up the people's houses that she's going to and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And you start by asking your friends for a favor. Can you let me host a party at your house? Can you invite your neighbors? And so, and I watched her do that and then build that out, and then leave sales and go to training. So she worked for corporate for them for a while.
Okay.
Funny enough, now she works on the team with me, which is awesome. And that was also the thing too, like as the business started to take off, some of the feedback I would get from other people is like, oh, you're so lucky. Your parents must've been in the business. And I'm like, I wish, wish they were in the business. Now my mom works with me, and people probably think I work for her, which is totally cool, but it's cool how it's come full circle. But so that watching what she was doing was interesting to me. I was certainly not like an A student in high school. I scraped by, had to do summer school in grade 11 on like 4 courses just to get into grade 12. And then was like, okay, figure it out, man. Like, apply yourself a little bit here. Got into university. And then, so sales was always kind of there. And I remember even like thinking, if I made $100,000 a year, oh my God, I'd have to work for 10 years to make $1 million. And then you find out what taxes are, and you're like, there's, in my opinion, the way to maybe cheat the system is the wrong word, but like really put yourself ahead in life. Sales is the thing, right? If you have that ability to, connect with other people and be trustworthy and understand what you're talking about, that's the way to jump ahead in life, because there's no floor and there's no ceiling.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it was for me. And then what actually like solidified it, which is such a weird story, is I was hanging TVs with my uncle one summer in university. That was his job. When the TVs was 12 years ago, the TVs were big, right? They were heavy.
Yeah. Super thick and heavy.
Yeah. And one of the houses we did was a real estate broker. It's funny. I'm not going to say who it is now. I'll tell you guys offline, but like 12 years ago. And I was like, who is this? Like I was in his house. I'm like, what's going on here? He walks in, he's like, yeah, I own the Remax down the street. And I'm like, And like all these light bulbs started going off. So that's where it came from in terms of wanting to give it a shot. And I think I'm glad I went to university, grew up, and then started, because I was super naive at when I was 22, but when I was 18, it wouldn't have worked. So I'm happy I waited and got in a little bit later.
So you were naive enough to not know the challenges of the business, and you came in wide-eyed.
Yeah. Like I was just like, I will do this. Like, I'm just going to make this work. And certainly wasn't natural. I think my first year I sold 3 properties and did like, I don't know, 50 something leases. I would run ads on Kijiji, Craigslist. This was before like Facebook Marketplace was a thing.
Yeah.
Just anyone that would reach out, I would just run around. I was exhausted. I had a crappy split where I was making no money. At the end of year 1, I lived in my parents' basement, and after everything, I think I made $42,000, which when you're 22 isn't terrible when you're living in your parents' basement.
Yeah. Most of your friends probably weren't making that even after graduating university, or making just that.
Yeah. But it was like the first 6 months, I remember I made $10,000 in the first 6 months. And I thought long and hard about, this isn't going to work. And then, so just that patience thing. And then a few things started clicking. And then since then it's really taken off. But, so for anyone that doesn't feel like you're just naturally good at sales, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like you can figure it out along the way and learn and mentor under other people.
So I feel like our progression, I mean, we've talked about this many times, but I feel like our progression has been like parallel. It's been very similar. And so going and doing all of those leases and then doing the 3 sales, how did you get your first sale? Like if I'm a new agent and I'm watching this and I'm thinking, holy shit, I got to do 60 leases. What the hell is going on? How am I getting the sale? What was Tom Story's first sale story?
Just telling my friends that if they don't work with me, I'm never talking to them again. No, but the truth is the first sale was a really good friend of mine. And he took a chance on me, right? But also in that first year, I had family members, not direct family members, but family members that didn't work with me.
Yeah.
I had really good friends that were like, sorry, man, like you're 6 months in, this money's coming from my parents. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the beginning it was that. And then what started happening was the least people were allowing me to survive. I could like feed myself, right? And then they would go into the database and I'd stay in touch with them. And then they would refer me their friends. But then I fell into this trap that everyone was like, do you also do sales? Like they just assumed I'm the lease guy.
Yeah.
I even remember an agent in my office called me like the lease king once. I was like, you never say that again.
Now we're calling the presentation king, not the lease king.
So I was so like, okay, at some point I'm going to have to shift this. And then so really what happened was finding that first few opportunities was networking, doing open houses for people, was, you know, trying to be invisible in my network. And that's when, like, at the end of year one is when I started making the really crappy, like, market update videos.
Yep.
That I assumed weren't working, but then 6 months later it started clicking. And it's like, oh, okay, you know, people are watching this, but they're not telling me they're watching this. And that's what started. And then you build up over that. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're the guy. I'm going to call you when I'm ready. So that was the visibility aspect, where what I was asking myself that was so frustrating to me was like, if I'm a condo owner in King West, how would they know who I am?
Right.
And I didn't have any money to send direct mail flyers or have a billboard or have advertisements in the elevator. I didn't have that, but I had my time and I had what I thought was an understanding of the market. So I recorded myself talking about it, and then the slow progression that eventually it started taking off.
At the
sorry, go ahead, right?
Sorry. At the age of 22, did you find you were getting a lot of pushback about being so young from people? Like, did you have to deal with that objection a lot? And how would you handle that objection?
Yeah.
Like, I can only imagine at 22, you did see that. I mean, I got into the industry at 30, and even at 30, I would get pushback from people in my network about, you know, being too young and not experienced enough. So how did you handle that at you know, the ripe age of 22?
So working with people that were around my age, I never got the pushback because they liked that I answered emails quickly. But those were lease people, right? And I agree with you. I'm 31. I'll be 32 this year. I still get it. I still get it when I'm meeting with people that don't know me. And I can see if it's like, you know, a couple at the table, I can see themselves give each other the look like, oh, he's young. So it still happens. And that's why I've become so kind of obsessed with understanding the data and the numbers. Cause I know if I can get a seat at that kitchen table or that Zoom call or whatever it is these days, I know I can win them over with my knowledge. But I don't have a chance if it's just based on, like, especially at the time, experience. Right. And I did get that question a lot. How long have you been doing this? And I would just be honest with people. I'm like, I'm 6 months in, and you're like one of my 3 clients. I'm going to work really hard for you. Right. Like I don't have other things in my life going on. But I don't think that's ever really going to go away. It's funny. I also, in those first few years, I would wear a suit and a tie every single day to try and mask the fact that I was young and try to look older. And I think there's this, I had lunch with an agent that, I don't know, probably does about 150 transactions a year, but small team, like really impressive stuff. And what he said to me was, you know, you almost got to find that mixture of, like, you know, the old lady that's selling her condo wants you to show up looking like you just came from church.
Yep.
Right. But, and the agents that have been around for a while have that experience level and will show up looking proper, where the younger ones that don't dress as professional, but maybe have more market knowledge and know what's actually going on, don't get a seat at the table. So you got to find that middle ground of, like, you know, be professional, but understand what you're talking about so that you find that mix with people. Because if you don't, you're not going to have any opportunity to even get the appointment.
I want to go back to the lease king and then the video thing that you were talking about before, because it was like, hey, I was new. No one trusted me. I was utilizing all of my time to develop my like product knowledge of the thing that I was selling. But now I need to have like my unique selling proposition or be able to like showcase my value in the marketplace in comparison to other people who potentially, had more experience than me and I'm new. So what would you say that it was pairing the video that kind of helped you transition from being looked upon as like the lease guy, or was it the things that you were saying in the new appointments that you were getting from there?
Yeah, I think first of all, it was me believing that I wasn't the lease guy, that I could do sales, and that's what I was trying to do. And the leases were being done just to kind of build out the database and then go from there. And yeah, my videos were rarely ever about anything rental related. It was all sales update, average price. It's crazy, like watching some of the stuff I did in 2015, where I'm like, the average price in Toronto was 400, and I'm like, oh my, what's happened? It's crazy looking back. So first believing in myself that I did know what I was talking about, and then fully recognizing that I had to actually know what I was talking about if I was going to put myself on video. I think that makes you a better real estate agent if you're going to put yourself out there, because you can get away with it for a little bit of time, but if you don't know what you're talking about, pretty soon people are going to tell you that, or they're going to stop watching you. Regardless of how consistent you are, you still have to be good. And then I think it just kind of matured from there. Like if I break down my business now, it would be like the first bucket would be repeat business, which is pretty straightforward, which I think any agent will tell you that. The second bucket would be referral from database, right? Most agents can get repeat, but they don't all get referral because there's something missing in their messaging, right?
Yeah.
Then the third one would be strategic alliances, whether that be with other real estate agents outside my market that refer me business, right? Mortgage brokers, lawyers, BNI group, whatever you want to do, right? Like a B2B kind of relationship. But then the fourth one, which this year is becoming like 25% of my business, is new business, right? So the new business now, I mean, like the leads coming in on YouTube are nonstop. I had 2 calls today. I got 2 tomorrow. Like it's kind of overwhelming, to be honest with you. And then now that I've figured out a way to fill the pipeline and bring in, some dollars to run the business, we just signed up another listing because of direct mail flyers. So like I'm polar opposites on, I do old school, I do new school. I don't care what it is, as long as I can, if I have enough proof from someone else that it works, I'll do it. So I think that's the thing. And going back to the beginning, I was naive. And I was also just willing to be like, tell me what to do. Can someone just tell me what to do and I'll do it? Where I don't know if it's changed now with the newer agents that just think views equals sales or something. Like I could give 2 craps about views. I want appointments. So it's changing that mindset to like, I care about appointments. I don't care about people knowing who I am on the street if they're not going to call me and take me seriously, right?
For sure.
And at what point did you start to see, is it just this year? Like you've been doing this since 2015. When did you start to see leads come in through your social media presence as well as your YouTube? Like how long did it take to kind of build up that following? And then not only build up that following, but in your mind, build the trust with that following, right? That you were actually educating them, that you were actually, you decided at some point, because you were so young, you were going to be the smartest guy in the room, or the most, maybe not the smartest, the most knowledgeable about the market.
Probably just the loudest.
So, but at what point of putting in that effort did you start to see a return on that investment of your time and effort?
I would say starting with just putting out videos and sending it to my database and posting them on all the social media platforms, 8 months to a year to see any visible traction, at least people that were acknowledging the things that I did.
Yeah.
But what surprised me with that is, I made these videos for consumers to reach out to me when they're ready. But what started happening is other real estate agents started consuming them. And then the ones that weren't in my market started referring me there. So that happened first. I started getting inbound referrals from other realtors because most of my Instagram following is other realtors anyways. So that was kind of interesting. I was like, oh, wow, this is not what I expected, but this is kind of cool, right? The benefit you get is never necessarily what you think it's going to be at the beginning. So that's how it started there on the social, and then kept, building that, and never outsourced it. Anything on my account, I've pressed post. I've written it's all me, which takes time, but I was passionate about it. And then more recently, I'd say probably end of 2021, I got monetized on YouTube, where YouTube started paying me a little bit for ads. And I started getting real results. And I think the difference is I had a plan. I post one video every 5 days minimum. That's the way it looks. And then the YouTube content falls into probably 4 categories as well. Market updates, debunking headlines, which are great for views and likes, not great for appointments, but gets people to show up and know who you are. And lots of hilarious negative comments, but that is what it is. Then top 10 lists, top 10 condos, top 10 underrated condos, that kind of stuff. Those videos perform very well for actually getting appointments. And then the one more recently, and I got this idea kind of from you, Emma, which was like this long form educational, like 45-minute videos on everything you need to know if you're going to buy a condo this year. That video alone, we've sold, I think, 5 condos this year from that one video.
Wow.
Because it's boring and long, but guess what? Someone's interested. And we just helped a young couple buy a condo. And she sent me an email saying thanks. She was working with a team member of ours. And I went back to check that video. She had commented on that video 4 months ago saying like, thanks so much. So, those long form ones will get less views, but more appointments. The top 10 ones will build your authority as you're giving your opinion on something, right? The market updates builds authority, and then the headline ones build your audience, but don't really build.
Yeah, they get people into the top.
They get people into the funnel.
Yeah, and it's I like the approach that you have to it, where it's like I have my cold audience, the thing that gets them in. I have the content for the warm audience that maybe isn't necessarily ready to go right now, but it helps me to continue to build authority and rapport with them and a relationship with them so that they trust me. And then I've got the bottom of the funnel stuff where it's like the hot people. It sucks because people want the instant gratification, right? So they're like, I want the headline thing because it's hot, it's trendy, and it's going to get the views. But the long, boring content where it is essentially a VSL, and I think this is kind of where real estate agents go wrong a lot of the time, is they do the same thing so many times. And we're going to talk about presentations in a second, but it's like you present so many times, but you don't build replicatable assets for your business in which you could post. And I want to give somebody something that they can watch at their own time. I don't want to say, hey, can I come and meet you on X, Y, and Z date? Of course I want to meet you in person, but if you're unavailable, I still kind of want to have something that you can watch on your own time. And I don't think a lot of agents do a good job of building that internally within their own business.
It was wild to me to see what changed. And if we look back at even 2022, you hear online lead and you think, okay, if you're a killer like you guys, maybe 4% conversion if you absolutely know your stuff. But most people 1 to 2%, and time involved and whatever, and scrubbing and ISAs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
These leads are technically online leads, but we're converting like 35% of them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like a done deal. Like, when they come in, it's just good to go. And I will say the one thing that totally changed it for making it happen is the very soft, casual call to action in the videos. I didn't used to do that. And now in the first, 30 seconds of a video. So I put out a video today, let Bank of Canada increase the rates, right? So it's like, Tiff and the gang at the Bank of Canada increased the rates today. It's going to surprise some people. Some people will say they saw this coming. My name's Tom Story. I appreciate you being back here on the channel. If you enjoy this content, all I ask is hit that like button, subscribe, and join our growing community. Also, if you want to talk with me directly, you can go to the first link in the description and book a call with me at a time that works for you. And then into the video. So you can see it's like muscle memory, right?
Totally.
That casual call to action is everything. That gets all my appointments booked.
Do you use one at the end of the video too? Like, how often are you using a call to action in your video creation?
I usually just use it at the beginning because a lot of people drop off the video in the first minute anyways.
Yeah.
But in the super long form ones, I'll have 3. I'll have one at the beginning, one in the middle being like, hey, by the way, we're 25 minutes in here. Thank you. If you want to book an appointment with me, go down below. Right.
Absolutely.
And some of what recently changed on YouTube, they now have it's built in now. It's not Google ads. It's built into YouTube. You can click on one of your videos and pay to sponsor it. So even if you don't want to put in the time and effort to, do all these headline videos and whatever, top 10 videos, you don't want to do that, but you want to just build out 5-hour-long, the upsizer's guide.
Yeah.
The ultimate upsizer's guide, the 15 things you need to know before you ever buy a condo in Toronto, whatever. You build out 5-hour-long videos, post them all on YouTube, use that new ads function to just hit everybody with it. I actually think you don't even need to build out a big channel anymore to still get a bunch of appointments booked.
It's very interesting. I need to look into this a little bit further in regards to the back end and
it's like a week old. It's
really
cool. It's brand new. Yeah.
This is why we brought you on today, Tom. Thank you.
Shrinko showed it to me. This was
yeah, we got to get him on here for sure. Okay, so I want to talk to you about presentation.
Sorry, Skrinko. I always say his name wrong. Skrinko.
Yeah. So let's talk. So you are the listing presentation king, and there's I've heard your listing presentation many times. We've both trained on each other's buyer consultations, listing presentations, and yours is incredibly thorough and incredibly thought out. But one of the things I think even to this day that you do that is so impressive is the mindset before. And I would love for you to just talk a little bit about kind of like your preparation for those presentations and how much that impacts your outcome or the success that you have with it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's probably even more important than what you're talking about, right? Like you have to believe that what you're saying, you actually believe what you're saying, and that you can look that seller or buyer directly in the eye and say, I know I'm the best choice for you because of this, this, and this, right? So the first thing is that I remember this. I used to like park outside the house or the condo building like half an hour early and like jack myself up, listen to like AC/DC or like get really excited. I used to have this like, I don't know if it was an OCD thing, but I'd untie my shoelaces and tie them back up right before I went in. That was like my thing. That I was a hockey goalie growing up, so I'm weird, right?
For sure.
I used to have that. Now it's like the opposite. I'm playing John Mayer, Jack Johnson, something chill. I'm going into like Zen mode before I walk in. And then something that I got from Kaylee Heaps was that as she's walking up to the door, because she believes so much in how good she is at what she does, is you kind of just tell yourself, I would just feel bad for these people if they didn't choose me because I know how good of a job I'm going to do for them. And if you believe that and go in, and then, and also like, Emma, this, you've seen it. I'm happy to talk about it. Like my presentation is like, I'm going to sell you in the most non-salesy way of all time. I'm almost going to make it feel like I'm not trying to make you do anything that you want to then work with us even more.
It's funny that you use that mantra walking up to the door, because I teach people the same thing with the phones to get their mindset in the right place. Like I ask them all the question when I'm training them, like, do you feel like there's a lot of garbage agents out there? And they're like, they're always like, yeah. And I'm like, do you feel like you're better than 95% of them? Of course, they're in training, so they do. Right. And so they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, if you don't call these people, someone else is going to call and give them bad service. So like when I'm about to pick up the phone or do a call session, I'm telling myself like, these people are lucky I'm calling because I'm saving them from all those other bad agents. And you're doing kind of the exact same thing, just being like, these people are lucky I'm here. I'm going to make them the most money, or I'm going to save them the most money, or whatever it might be.
Totally agree. And it's like riding that fine line between being confident and letting ego take over. Right. Yeah. And I've been guilty of both, but to be honest, like I've been guilty of both, but now it's just like, I'm confident in what I'm saying. I really, truly believe it. I can back it up with the numbers, and at least at this point in my career, like I have the proof. I can show them. It's not, you don't have to like the numbers, but it's hard to argue with the numbers. Right. And that's what I kind of like with the data side of things.
So now you have the proof to, in your mind, know that like I'm validated in this feeling when I walk up to the door that I am better than most people because I have the proof from doing it so many times. But when you're new, how do you gain that mentality of I'm walking up to the door and I'm confident that I'm going to do a better job than someone else?
You have to practice that listing presentation 3 times a day with someone on your team in your brokerage. Obviously, nothing's going to be better than doing a real one with a real seller. Yeah. But you have, like, the way I look at it, if I put a booklet together, listing presentation, recent comps, the lot size of the house, all the things we do, and I blindfolded anyone and dropped them off in front of a house, and I gave them 10 minutes to open the booklet and review, you should be able to go in and feel confident enough that you can win these people over.
Right.
Like, that's the way I look at it. Because at this point now, I'm not even preparing my presentation. It's being done for me by my assistant. And as I'm walking down the street to the condo, I'm like flipping through. I'm like, okay, yeah, I know what's going on here. And you go in and have this conversation. And I'm rarely doing 1-step presentations anymore. They're mostly 2-step. Even with condos that are easy to price, I'm not telling them that day. I'm like, thank you for having me. I'm not going to ask you to sign anything today. Like, it's okay. Let me go back. I'm going to prepare a full breakdown email, everything we talked about, send it over to you. If you feel good about everything, then we can start the process. So being prepared is the answer.
I'm the exact same way with mine. Like, I'm 2-step. I rarely ask for the signature in the appointment unless they tell me somebody else already has asked for the signature or is putting pressure. How do you feel you compete with, because obviously there's lots of coaches, brokers, trainers that teach you don't leave that house without a signature. Yeah. How do you compete with that? And is there something that you say in your presentation to get people to wait? Like, if they're interviewing, another agent, you ask them, they're like, yeah, we're interviewing other agents. And there's somebody else coming in the door that's going to go for the kill on the spot. Do you have a line or something that you say to set them up to not sign with someone else before hearing from you?
Yeah, what I'll always say, because I'll ask them too sometimes, or sometimes it's just obvious, right, that you're in competition. Yeah, is before you make your decision, whichever way you go, I just want you to call me and let me know, because sometimes the reason they're going other direction is such a silly reason that you got to just get ahead of. But I'll tell you, like, Ryan, I'll build into my business plan getting burned like 5 times a year. I'm okay with it. We send them lots of stuff early. We send them comps early, breakdown earlys before I ever even walk into the door. And it saves me so much time when I'm in there. Nobody else did that. Yeah, I know maybe more of an old school trainer would be like, don't do that. You're giving away whatever. Like, it's okay. It's okay. And I know for a fact, because we're converting, and not all of them are repeat and referral. Like, some are people that don't know us, are calling on other things. We're still converting like over 90% with this presentation. So should I ask for the signature more often? Probably. Like, if I was training someone, yeah, probably. All I can tell you is that it's worked for me. The no ask creates people being like, okay, well, when can you send the paperwork? And I'm like, don't worry, when I'm back at the office, we'll get it sent over through DocuSign so we can go through it with you step by step.
And you're just being authentically you, which is, gonna make people more attracted to working with you.
I think I'm like so honest sometimes that they'd feel bad screwing me over. Like, I think that's part of it. I don't know.
Well, I think that you have you're such a professional that they don't feel that they're being sold. And I think that this is what when you become a true professional in sales, and this is something that Ryan and I discussed like in depth. And it's like, when you can be when you're detached from the outcome and you go in, and the whole intention of the actual sales process is like, can I do right by this person? Can I uncover the pains and problems? And can I actually deliver a result to them that helps them accomplish their goals? Most people, when they're in like the brand new phase, they're too nervous. They're like begging. The people who are like in the amateur phase are like, I need to hardcore close this person, and like I'm gonna go in there and ask for the signature. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, like it still gets deals done. But I think that when you become a true sales professional, you go in, you ask all the right questions, because you're asking the right questions and you are detached from the outcome. You're like one where like you should choose me. They're like, there's just this authenticity, and especially with you, it comes across like, this guy's a professional. He knows what the fuck he's doing. He's gonna get me the result, and I don't really see there being any reason to look elsewhere. But we have talked about something before that I love, and I have to ask you this. So you have this kind of like framework for objection handling. And I wanted to go through that with,
Sure.
we don't have to go through specifics in terms of objection handling today, but I don't know if it was a Dean Jackson thing or you got it from somewhere.
It was Rob Vivian. He's a real estate coach. I did a boot camp with him 8 years ago, and this was the best thing I ever learned early in my career. So full credit to him for what we're about to talk about.
Awesome. Yeah, no, you gave me that framework and I had kind of heard it elsewhere, but I thought it would be a really valuable thing to talk about today, and it'd be something that,
Sure.
any agent at any point in time could take this at any point in time in the sales process and implement it. So I'd love for you to talk about that.
Yeah. So it's basically broken down for objection handling into 3 different things: repeat, approve, build a bridge. That's the model. So, the most common objection is when you've gotten to the end and you're talking about the commission, which, by the way, always split up your commission. Don't say you charge 5, say you charge 2.5 and 2.5, like separate them so they can see where it actually goes. But that's probably another conversation. Okay, Tom, I appreciate you being here. This all looks good. But, another agent we talked to said they do it for 4%. You're at 5%. Seems like a lot more. We'll probably get pretty similar results. Now, a new agent would go, oh, no, but I'll work harder. I'm better. You go into like survival mode, right? So I get excited when I get this now, because I'm like, okay, I know exactly. And they're not bad people for asking the question. I get it. They're thinking this is going to save them more money. And I would ask the same question, right? So what you have to do first is you repeat what they said. You do not object to it right away. You don't say, oh, no, that person's stupid, or they're discount, or, well, imagine if you beat them in negotiation, what are they going to do for you? Like, which is actually a reasonable response. But repeat what they said. Okay, so just to be clear, you talk with one other agent and they said they do it for 4%, right? They've heard me. They heard that I actually listened to them. Then I approve their statement. I totally get that. Emma, would it be fair to say that your goal is to sell this property for the most amount of money and then buy the next one and have the most amount of money in your pocket at the end of the day? Yes, exactly. That's why I think this one's better. Okay. Well, do you mind if I share something with you? So we've tracked the numbers, and we know that with our staging plan, I'm investing anywhere between $5,000 to $7,000 into your property before it ever hits the market. And that other agent I know didn't offer the staging because they said you didn't need it. And they're willing to do that because there's no money on the line. When I invest into my clients' properties, we want to make sure that we both got skin in the game here and we're on the same team. So I know that for a fact, I can earn you more money, more beans in your jeans is my favorite term. With the way that we market homes, because I'm willing to invest into your property. Does that seem fair? Now, here's where it comes to the point that when I've given them that build a bridge, in their mind, they now want to agree with you. Whether they actually do or not, whatever. But typically when I give that, it's like, they're like, okay, all right, sounds good, 5%. And then move on. And then when they've acknowledged and they've understood your value proposition, right? Because price is only an issue in the absence of value.
Yeah.
Flip the page. Don't sit there and keep selling them on why. Like it's the conversation's over, right? And then the other one is, hey, we're gonna sell with you, but we're also gonna buy with your team. So on the buy side, can you give us a kickback? Okay, so just to be clear, you want us to give you a kickback on the buy side. Totally understand why you'd ask that, because you want more money in your pocket. We found from the agents that do that give the commission kickbacks. I'm always really excited when they show one of my listings because they always overpay for it. So, what we can promise you is, we don't kick back commission, but we will make sure that, you know, whether it takes 2 days or 2 years, we are with you till the end. We will not allow you to overpay for a property. Does that sound fair? They're like, yeah, okay. And that one just happened to me, and they still signed with us. We just sold their condo, and now we're helping them buy a place for 5% on the sell, and they're not asking for anything back on the buy. So that's it. Repeat, approve, build a bridge.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I love it because it's, hey, I've heard you. We're also in alignment. And then I think where I see people get lost is on the build a bridge portion. And so if you're like, okay, well, repeat is easy, approve is easy, but like, where am I building this bridge to? The bridge is always to the dream of what they actually want. Right. And so you always do a really good job of saying like, hey, if it is money in your pocket, let me build a bridge to show you how I can do it without me being cut out of the deal. And as long as you have a good justification, and it always ends with, I think it's called the recency bias in our brains, right? Like we always remember the last thing that we heard. And so the way that you do it is always, well, it's that ends up being more money for you because of X, Y, and Z. And so for any viewers or listeners, if you're like, okay, I like the model, the repeat, the approve I can do, I'll remember that. But like, where am I building the bridge to? Build the bridge to the thing that they really want and end off with the thing that they want at the end there.
100%. And then the saying I love the most is does that sound fair? Because then you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
Like we just had one where she's like, you know, we want to go with you, but you're a little bit more expensive. Do you cover painting? And I was like, you know what? I've got a really good painting guy. Why don't I cover I'll cover $1,000 of painting. Does that seem fair? She's like, yep, sounds fair. Let's do it. Like, you know, just little things like that.
Yeah. No, I think, I think one of the biggest takeaways that you mentioned today that was probably overlooked by a lot of people was practicing your presentation, because too many people practice in person. And again, like you said, it is the most important thing to do in getting those at bats. But if you don't have the opportunity, or you're listening or watching this and you're like, well, easy for Tom to say, he has this massive following on social and he's getting appointments booked into his calendar. He's getting them booked into his calendar because he knows what the hell he's doing. And so if you're somebody who's putting a bunch of time and effort into prospecting, making calls like Ryan and I did at the beginning of our careers, make sure that you're spending the time where you're not with the clients, really practicing so that you can knock it out of the park.
Imagine you put even 50% of the time into practicing the presentation as you did into the amount of time you took to try to get the presentation. Like,
right.
You know, we spend so much time on, and every real estate coach is like, well, we'll show you how to get it.
Yeah.
Show you how to get the opportunity, and then good luck. It's important on both sides.
What's changed in your presentation from when you first started to do a listing presentation to now?
Everything. Well, I didn't used to have one.
There you go.
Just would go in and be like, hey, like, here's the last few sales. Let's highlight some stuff here and see what happens. And I'll say, even the ones that you think are slam dunks, you've worked with them before, your best friend, you think, I don't need to do the presentation. And make it clear to them, like, hey, I know we know each other, but I want to treat you the exact way I would treat anybody else. Like, don't skip over it just because you think it's a done deal. Like, if you walk in, they're like, let's sign the paperwork right now. Fine, sign the paperwork. Don't do the presentation. But some that I know I've lost is because I went in, they just peppered me with questions. We sat there for half an hour. I didn't have the time to go through and be the authority and run the presentation, where I feel like if I had the opportunity to do so, the result would have been different. And I continue to tweak it. Like, I continue to go through and change things, and what placement of things are going to be as I'm going to talk about them. After the page where you talk about what you cost, you should also have a page that shows what your results are, you versus the market, on terms of days on market, percentage over list price, properties actually sold, percentage sold of what you actually take listings, because to back it up immediately and then show them, like, listen, nothing I told you today would matter if it didn't work. You know, here's what the numbers are telling us. And I mean, listen, comparing to the average agent in Toronto, your numbers should look good. Like, right. And if yours don't, your teams do, or your brokerages do, right?
Yeah. And I think that is sorry, go ahead, Ray.
I was just gonna say, you said one thing there that I really loved that I know I made the mistake of a lot early in my career, and that was not giving referrals or friends or family and going through the process the exact same way I did with everyone else. Because A, you don't end up giving as good a service to the people who expect the best service from you.
Mm-hmm.
And the people you should be giving the best service to, their repeat, their referral, or their family or friends. And B, you'll get into bad habits, because if you've got a business like yourself where all your business is repeat and referral and that starts happening, then you stop doing the things that created the success. And when you get put back in a situation when you need to do that, you're out of practice.
Yeah. Like sometimes I really enjoy when a listing presentation really like hit me with questions.
Yeah.
Because it can almost become, it's never too easy, but sometimes it's like you've already won them over. You're just going through the motions here. But I like when I get challenged, even if I lose, it's okay. Because it's like a reminder of like, this business is not easy. You fall into that trap, you're screwed.
Yeah. Oh, I think one of the things that you mentioned that I wish that I did earlier in my career that would have helped my presentations is constantly collecting and gathering social proof. And so I think that when you get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm so dialed in the presentation, you realize like I should have more social proof in this thing than I do. And then you're like, I have to spend like 3 days going back to try and figure it out. And so one of my recommendations is like when a review is left for you, or somebody sends you a message and was like, thank you so much. Like that was awesome. Or you have a comment on your video or something. Don't let it be a graveyard of just things in the past that someone said about you. Like literally cultivate a Google Drive folder of all of the things, if only, even if you're not using them right now, as a reminder to you to help you build the confidence so that when you get to the door, you know that you have those results and that people were like thankful of it. But at some point in time, whether you're brand new and you're like, I don't need it right now, you're going to look back and it's going to be like 10 years down the line. And you're like, I wish I had that stat from the first time I did that thing so that I can really say to future, or to the current version of me when I'm like, in 10 years, this is how I did it. This was my thing. And this was the feedback that someone gave me at that time.
And I'll give you one little like hack here. And Emma, you've seen this, but we have questionnaires that go to our sellers and buyers before we start to work with them. And the first thing is when you send them the email, ask them to fill it out, make sure you say to them, this will take you less than 2 minutes, or otherwise they're not going to do it. Make sure they know it's quick. And we have one portion, ask them how they heard about us. So let's say you've got great Google reviews. Let's say you made up market update videos. Let's say you've done the news before, whatever it is, right? You say, how did you hear about us? And it's like past client, referred by friends or family, Tom's YouTube videos, saw Tom on the news. You saw one of our 105-star Google reviews, so they're like, oh, wow, maybe I should check that stuff out as well. So they're almost like you're showing off to them without actually saying anything.
Totally.
And then we ask some silly questions like, what's your favorite restaurant? And then when it firms up, they get a gift certificate to their favorite restaurant. And they forget they told you. So all these little things build in, and that's how you sustain a business where people just keep coming back.
Amazing, man. Well, we have a few minutes left with you, and I wanted to ask you some fun stuff. So what's the craziest sales story that you have? I think we all have some crazy ones, but is there any one that comes to mind where you're like, holy shit, that was a process?
Yeah, it was during last year when the rate hikes started happening, and a few people got caught in this, but so bought something first, needed to sell. This stresses me out so much, stresses me out like crazy. And so we probably had 2 or 3 of those that were cutting it real close to like, we're going to lose deposits. Where even if we change the price, you remember what was happening, like things were dropping so rapidly every month. Yeah. It was hard to know where the prices were. And we found a way to make them all work by basically like just letting the other side, being super honest with the other side. So I don't know if I have like funny stories. Like I've walked into some pretty crazy stuff in showings and stuff, but in terms of like deals, I would say it's mostly just the stress level of 2 transactions, you always want to ask people, would you rather be homeless or poor? The first question, whether you buy or sell first, because one could happen, right?
Sure.
Those stress me out more than anything else. Like really, like keep me up at night. So I hate those.
What about, so I think, I was going to say, I think Matt, when he was on the last episode, said that he walked in for a showing and someone was showering. And I think that he also said that he negotiated a deal in the porta potty at Digital Dreams.
Yeah, he did.
Which is pretty funny. So is there anything, I mean, I know you mentioned that you had walked on some crazy stuff, but are there any funny tidbits from like showings or feedback that you got from anybody or anything like that?
Yeah, well, my clients know I've got like a thing that happens like when I show properties, and I triple knock, and then I slowly open the door and go, hello. Like it's like the Tom hello. They know it. It's like an ongoing joke, because we've walked into people just having sex before, like in bachelor units, where like you think you've knocked.
Bachelor units?
You see the whole thing.
It's one room.
Damn. Was it in Liberty Village where they used to film the pornos?
It was no, this one specifically was on the Esplanade. I remember it very well.
Damn. Did your clients buy it?
No. and then I think it was like 8 York or 228 Queens, one of those ones, the water club park or whatever it's called. Just like a stripper pole in the middle of the condo.
No way.
I took a picture of that one. I don't know. Like I would say those are probably the ones that stand out. Most of it's pretty boring what we actually do on a day to day.
Yeah.
Or now these days, it's like you got to tell your clients, like, even if you like it, don't say anything, because there could be a recording device in here.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You just never know these days.
Don't give away the
cameras,
secrets.
recording devices. When I was running condos.ca, we had so many agents. The stuff that we get calls like, we caught your agents doing this, we saw your agents doing that. And I also heard crazy stories I have some of my own crazy stories, but some of the agents would come in with some of the wildest stories ever. But so I have one question for both of you.
Yeah.
Being on this podcast with two watch people, if you were to go back in time, I know you're both big watch buffs, what would be your first watch purchase if you could do it all over again?
Oh man, I don't want to say it's again, the salesperson in me is like, I need like way more information to help.
Okay, so price cap. I'll give you a price cap. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So I want two answers from you. Okay. Under 1,000 USD, because I know like Canadian dollars are worth nothing right now.
Yeah.
Under 1,000 USD and under 10 grand USD.
Under 1,000, Baltic makes really nice watches, automatic watches. They're from France. Hamilton, can't go wrong with Hamilton.
Yeah.
Or the Tissot PRX is like the no-brainer under 1,000.
I think the thing is with me, under 1,000, I'd be like, it's not going to retain its value anyway. So just buy the thing that you think looks dope, that you really like, whether it's $100 or $999. I don't think I really give a shit what you buy. Like, you should just like it. And then if it's going to be like around 10 grand, you're probably going to be somewhere in and around, like, you probably want to get like an entry level Rolex. Maybe you want to get, like, my first thing was a Tudor. I liked it a lot. And so I think it really, like, when it comes down to 10 grand, you can get a little bit more specific with like value. But I think under $1,000, it's like, it kind of depends on what you want to do with the thing. But like under $1,000, pretty much just consider it a write-off. Like, you're probably not selling it to someone else, so just get the thing that you really want.
I think for the general public, like if you get real deep on the watch nerd stuff, you can go into some crazy brands.
Shit, yeah.
But for the general public, the only brand everybody knows that they deem to be means you found success is Rolex. They've done an amazing job at marketing. They sponsor all the tennis stuff, the F1. They've done phenomenal. Rolexes will be easier to resell, not just maintain value or potentially go up in value, but even if you have a super complicated Patek Philippe that costs $125,000, finding the next buyer is going to take longer than finding the next buyer for a Rolex, because it's just, even people that know nothing know that.
Right.
Yeah, I've bought and sold watches several times, and the most interesting thing to me is people will be like, "Oh my god, you guys spent like $20,000 on a watch. What the fuck are you doing?" And you're like, "You spent $1,000 on a watch. What the fuck are you doing?" Because you're like, "That's gone, and this is like retained its value." But the thing that I learned the most of trading watches is actually the liquidity of every single time I've traded a decent watch. 2 to 48 hours or less, it's been gone, as long as the price is right. So I think people are like, I don't want to get stuck with this watch, but as long as you do enough research, right? And disclaimer, I'm not telling you what to do, but as long as you do enough research and you can see that there's been like enough market activity, like there's actually a pretty decent market for buying and selling watches. And the cool thing is, I guess, another sidebar, Ryan, to your point, is like, if you get something that's like super cool and then like you don't want it anymore and it's good, and it's not like, this is what I'm saying about buying a thing with like inherent value, like you can probably trade it for something else. You're probably not going to get stuck with it. But if you buy something that is like, some quartz watch that just kind of like looks cool, you're going to be stuck with it forever.
And I think the real answer is, like, if you look down at your wrist and you like what you're looking at and it makes you smile, it's a good watch for you. Like,
For sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of expensive watches that I have no interest in. So
yeah, and like, I mean, I have like a decent watch collection. They're not all crazy expensive. I bought a vintage Omega, was like my first like more expensive watch, and I bought it for like $800. And I wore it on my wedding day when I still had like a Rolex. So I have watches that are like $100 up to Rolexes, and it's like, sometimes I just want to rock the $100 thing because I just like it and it looks cool with the outfit, or I'm just vibing with that. So I don't think you even need to be overly in your head about like, I have to have this certain type of watch. Like if you like it and you enjoy wearing it, like you should just get it.
I got some Casios. I'm not
Dream
above
watch for both of you. Dream watch.
Dream watch.
I mean, probably a Royal Oak, a 37 millimeter rose gold Royal Oak. Recently, I've really liked the Cartier Santos, which I could buy, but they have one in rose gold, which is 40 grand. I'm like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
like it's 4 times more expensive than the stainless steel one.
Yeah,
probably a Royal Oak, an AP. Yeah.
I think I don't think that I could wear an 8. I could want it, but I just don't think it would like be my personal watch. So I would want that, but it wouldn't be, I don't know if I'd wear it all the time. But the olive day face with like the gold Jubilee bracelet, I think I'd wear that one a lot. So that would probably be maybe not my like grail watch, but probably the next thing where I'm like, I like it.
Next move. We know where Emma's spending her next commission check.
Potentially. If you guys come in and you guys actually watch this instead of listening to it, you'll have to check it out next time. We'll see how it goes.
Cool.
Awesome.
Oh, that was awesome, guys.
Yeah. No, Tom, we appreciate you being here. I have to ask you one last question before we wrap up. Best sales book and or course that you've ever taken?
Oh, sales book might be Traction, Getting a Grip on Your Business by Gino Wickman.
Probably have to agree.
Probably if you're building a team.
Yeah. It's
really,
the best business book.
It's the best business book. It's like the blueprint to business.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the course, other than The Agent Confidential, was the obvious answer. The boot camp.
Love it.
You know what? Just for real estate coaching, I think every single real estate agent should have somebody that they're talking to, and then understand there's a difference between coaching and training, right? You're coached or you're trained, or you can do both, but you need to do something. There needs to be another set of eyes on your business that's not just yours, that's holding you accountable, and you are excited to show up. It's like the little jolt in your business every few weeks. So I would just say in general, like all the coaching platforms out there, I think there's a lot of really good ones, but you got to be committed. You show up and just think they're going to solve it. They're not going to get the leads for you. They're not, but they'll hold you accountable if you didn't do what you said you're going to do, and it's going to make you feel bad, and then you're going to do it. So yeah, traction, and then just real estate coaching in general. It's an absolute must. Changed my entire business.
Awesome, man. Well, while we wrap up here, you're allowed to do a plug for yourself or where people can find you. So if anybody wants to follow the man, the myth, the legend himself, Tom Story, where can they find you?
On Instagram, it's The Story Team, Story with an E, and anywhere else you can just type Tom Story and you'll find me. YouTube's probably the best platform if you want to learn about the market, and if you want to see some other fun stuff, Instagram is where I'm most active.
Yep. And if you want to listen to another podcast with this man's voice, he does have his own podcast, and we would definitely highly recommend that you check it out. So, Tom, we appreciate you. Viewers or listeners, if you didn't pick anything up today, you weren't paying attention, you were scrolling on your phone, you should listen to this again. There was about 1,000 things that you could use to implement in your business that are tactical and you could take away right away. So, Tom, probably should have been paying you for this, but you were kind enough to give us your time. So thank you, man. We greatly appreciate it.
Invoice will come next week. Don't worry about it.
Love it.
Much appreciated, Tom. Hope you take e-transfer.
I do. We'll figure it out. Thanks, guys. That was awesome.
See you, man.
Thanks.